In 1999, Manchester United produced one of the most dramatic endings in football history. Trailing Bayern Munich in the Champions League final, the match entered stoppage time, with the trophy slipping away. Then, in the space of just 2 minutes, everything changed. United completed an extraordinary treble, Premier League, FA Cup, and Champions League, and secured one of the greatest nights the sport had ever seen. But the story of Manchester United did not begin in Barcelona. It began more than a century earlier as a railway team in industrial England. Hi, you are watching Infinite Timelines, where we explore the key moments that shaped the world around us. Few football clubs carry a story quite like Manchester United. From its beginnings as a railway team in the 19th century to becoming one of the most famous clubs in world football, its history is defined by triumph, tragedy, reinvention, and moments that shape the sport itself. The story begins in 1878, when the club was formed as Newton Heath, LYR, by workers from the Lancashire and Yorkshire Railway. At a time when organised football was still finding its place in industrial Britain, the team began by playing against other railway departments and companies. Newton Heath joined the Football League in 1892, but the early years were unstable. Relegation and financial problems threatened the club's survival, and by the turn of the century, it seemed possible that the team might disappear altogether. The club was saved by local brewery owner John Henry Davies, who invested after learning of its financial trouble. His backing led to a fresh start, and in 1902, the club adopted a new name, Manchester United. In the years that followed, United began to establish itself. Under Ernest Magnol, widely regarded as the club's first true manager, promotion back to the top flight arrived in 1906, followed by a First League title in 1908 and an FA Cup win in 1909. Those successes gave the club early credibility, but the decades that followed were far less consistent. United experienced ups and downs through the interwar years and into the Second World War, still searching for the figure who would truly transform its future. The real turning point came in 1945, when Matt Busby was appointed manager. Busby brought ambition, structure, and a belief that the club could become something far greater than it had been before. Under his leadership, United won the FA Cup in 1948 and league titles in 1952, 1956, and 1957. Busby's young side became known as the Busby Babes, a team built on youth, energy, and attacking football. They also became the first English club to enter the European Cup, pushing the boundaries of what an English side could aim for. But not every defining moment in United's history came on the field. In 1958, the Munich air disaster devastated the club. On the return journey from a European Cup match in Belgrade, the team's plane crashed during an attempted takeoff in Munich. 23 people died, including 8 United players, and the tragedy left a permanent scar on the club and on football itself. The disaster became the defining emotional chapter in the club's history. It reshaped the identity of Manchester United, turning the team into a symbol of resilience, loss, and rebuilding. Busby himself recovered and gradually rebuilt the side over the following decade. That rebuilding reached its most famous moment in 1968. 10 years after Munich, Busby's team defeated Benfica 4-1 at Wembley to win the European Cup, becoming the first English club to lift the trophy. It was not only a sporting triumph, but also the fulfillment of a promise made in the shadow of tragedy. From this point forward, Manchester United entered a new era of global stature, but sustained dominance would not come immediately. The club continued to win trophies, including the FA Cup in 1977 and again in 1983 and 1985, yet consistency at the very top remained elusive. Another huge turning point arrived in 1986, when Alex Ferguson was appointed manager. His early years were difficult, but the FA Cup win in 1990 gave him time and laid the foundations for one of the greatest managerial reigns in football history. From the early 1990s onward, United became the dominant force in English football. The club won the inaugural Premier League title in 1992 to 93, then added more championships throughout the decade, powered by figures such as Eric Cantona, Ryan Giggs, Roy Keane, David Beckham, Paul Scholes, and the rest of the emerging class of '92. The greatest moment of the Ferguson era came in 1999. United won the Premier League, the FA Cup, and then produced one of the most dramatic finishes in football history to beat Bayern Munich in the Champions League final, sealing an unprecedented treble. Success continued into the 2000s. United won more league titles, lifted the Champions League again in 2008, and further strengthened its reputation as one of the biggest clubs in world football. By the time Ferguson retired in 2013, he had transformed United into a global sporting institution. In the modern era, the club continues to evolve. The years after Ferguson's departure brought managerial changes, uneven league performances, and periods of transition. But Old Trafford remained one of football's most recognisable stages, and United one of its most widely supported names. The most recent major chapter began in January 2026, when Michael Carrick was officially appointed head coach until the end of the 2025-26 season. A former United midfielder who won 5 Premier League titles and the Champions League as a player, Carrick's appointment marked another attempt to reconnect the club's future with figures shaped by its past. What began as a works team for railway employees in 1878 has become one of the most influential clubs in the history of football. The story of Manchester United is one of rebirth after hardship, ambition after loss, and a legacy built as much on memory and identity as on trophies. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, subscribe to Infinite Timelines for more stories behind the teams, places, and ideas that shaped our world. Please leave a comment telling us what you would like to see in future videos, and be sure to hit the notification bell.